Hey, good evening and welcome to Slightly Off Axis Podcast. I'm Ken Otto, your host. Hey, we've got something on top for you tonight. We have SpaceX coming up tonight with a Falcon Heavy launch. There will be a lot of sites that will cover this launch, and I will be covering this on my other podcast that happens during the launch window time. So stay tuned and I will give you information for that. Hello, Karen. Welcome. So what do we have on tap for tonight? Well, we have SpaceX, we have Falcon Heavy. They have tried multiple times to launch this rocket. They have had bad weather. We had bad weather today in Florida, as a matter of fact, but that bad weather is gone. The estimated launch weather was 80% favorable with yesterday's forecast. I will check shortly. I didn't check before the broadcast to see if they updated that number yet, but I will check shortly on that. But what is tonight's launch? It's called Viasat 3 Americas, and it is a satellite launch. If I had more detail on my phone here, I would be able to tell you all the particulars, but there are plenty of places that are going to do that. Oh, it's 41 and raining up there where you are. Okay. It's in the 80s here in Florida. Not exactly sure what the humidity is, but I will get that kind of information when I do Freedom of Speech and You later, which is coming up at 7 o'clock Eastern. But I was going to give you all the times for the rocket launch in the different time zones. So if you're watching from around the world and you just happen chanced on this by finding it on social media, the rocket launch in GMT time opens at 11:29. That's when the opportunity opens up tonight, 11:29 p.m. That's 23:29 UTC. If you have trouble with AM and PM, now you know it's near the end of the day. So it opens up at that time on April 30th, or 30 April, as they say around Europe. And it closes at 12:26 a.m. in GMT, or 0026 UTC on 01 May. So, hey, Nathaniel, welcome. So that's the world time if you're doing a time conversion. Locally, it's happening at 7:29 p.m. here on the Space Coast around Kennedy Space Center. And this is a launch coming from LC-39A, the traditional Kennedy Space Center pad that has served both the Apollo program and the Space Shuttle program and various missions for SpaceX, including all of the crewed missions. So all of the missions that SpaceX launches that have crew go off 39A. Artemis was on the adjacent 39B. And a lot of the uncrewed missions that SpaceX does, they jump back and forth between 39A at Kennedy Space Center or SLC-40 at what's known as Cape Canaveral. Almost said Cape Kennedy by mistake. Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. That's a mouthful, or as we say, CCSFS. Now, that is the original launching area that is back from before when Kennedy Space Center was built. And that launched a large variety of rockets. It's going to continue to launch a lot of rockets. So we said 7:29 p.m. and closes at 8:26 p.m. locally. For those of you in Central Time, or those of you, who are watching from Houston or places like that, it's 6:29 p.m. to 7:26 p.m. So that's what you got going on. And for those of you in Mountain Time, I actually had somebody retweet my Mountain Time, so I'm actually going to say that. I was beginning to think that no one ever was watching in Mountain Time. Mountain Time is 5:29 p.m. to 6:26 p.m. And Pacific Time viewers, we're talking about 4:29 p.m. to 5:26 p.m., which includes those of you in Arizona, except for those of you who live in Navajo County, because those of you who live in Navajo County are on Mountain Time. And Hawaii, the bulk of Hawaii, although I do understand there's another time zone there, it would be 1:29 p.m. to 2:26 p.m. So that gives you all the time frames if you're looking at me to help you figure out when is this rocket launch going up, because people do get really excited about Falcon Heavy. Starship is obviously going to be the most powerful rocket, Artemis before that. And so all of that is going on. And but Falcon Heavy at the moment for orbital rockets that actually deliver payloads is the only viable, really powerful rocket. So the area is likely to be full of people. Now, if you're watching online and you just want to watch the rocket launch, how do you do that? Well, you go to YouTube, you go to @SpaceX, spelled just like it sounds, @ and my camera is reversed, so I just drew the @ symbol in reverse. My camera is reversed because it's so much easier for me to orient myself and see myself as though I'm looking in a selfie. So just imagine that I'm drawing the @ symbol correctly. SpaceX. That's how you get to SpaceX. And when you get there, it looks like this. And so if I use the right mouse pointer, you'll see that it looks like this. And you'll see that they have highlights on there, and they have some advertising, but they also have what are referred to as highlights, or I think it gives a different name on it. What it really means is the featured. That's the word I was looking for. These are the featured videos by SpaceX. And when you're looking for a live is a featured video. So here it is. I will expand this so you can see it. And I will bump my camera down to the bottom here. So maybe now you can really see it. There. Okay. You see that below the SpaceX logo and the subscribe button, there is VSAT-3 America's mission. That's tonight's mission. Okay. Now, you'll notice that even though I told you it was 7:29 and I said we were going from 7:29 to 8:26, you notice how now it says scheduled for 8:15? More than likely, that means that they changed the time. So when you go to the video description, you'll see these 3 little dots. Open that up. Dismiss that. Okay, you see that chat is disabled for the live stream, and you'll see that they have a description down here. Okay. They've not updated the description, so according to the description, it's still happening at 7:29, but let's go look at the tweet, shall we? Let's go look at the tweet. So let me find Twitter on this computer. Okay. Let me share this tab instead. I'm going to shrink back down to normal size so that I can see all of the functionality of Twitter. I'm going to search for SpaceX at SPACEX. Oops, got caps lock on, don't need that. Okay, and here they're saying, so they have not changed the anything. And they have not directly tweeted a change in time. They're still just showing stuff about that. Did they change? Okay, they have a thread here. Okay, Here at 41 minutes ago, they say team is resetting the countdown clock to the end of the launch window due to ground winds. They're targeting 8:26 p.m. for tonight's liftoff. So all those times I gave you before, 8:26 p.m. Eastern, 7:26 Central, 6:26 Mountain, 5:26 Pacific, 2:26 Hawaii, and for world time, it's going to be 12:26 a.m. on May the 1st, not April the 30th, because we, in their time, go into the next day with GMT, and it's 0026 UTC. They're targeting the end of the window tonight for the launch. So now you know. Now you're not going to be sitting around waiting, wondering when's this thing going to go up. They're either going to do it at the end of the window tonight or not. And this is the reason why they're going to do it. And let's expand that and make that viewable. Okay. So this is the reason why they're going to be delaying to the end of the window. It says, and I quote, team is resetting the clock to the end of the launch window due to ground winds. So that's what they're doing. So now you know. Okay. So I will be doing Freedom Speech and You at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So sometime in the middle of my show, I will be doing, coverage of this. I can't do both simultaneously because I can only do one show at a time. So I will show you how to get to Freedom Speech and You. So let me do that. So let me take this out. Let me solo myself. Show you how to get to Freedom Speech and You on various platforms. So I could point you to my website, but the one thing about pointing you to my website is that doesn't help people that don't have themselves logged into the browser versions of every website. They'll just get confused. So if you want to watch my coverage and you want to tune in instead of just tuning in directly to SpaceX, which my social media tells you how to get to SpaceX. You can do that. You won't be able to have any discussions or commentary, but you also won't get involved in a show that discusses politics if that's not your cup of tea. So that's why I tell you this. So let me bring this in. If you want to watch my other show, Freedom Speech and You, okay, Freedom Speech and You is Freedom Speech and You podcast by Kenneth Otto, and it's on at Freedom Speech and You at YouTube. So that's the YouTube way to get there. Now, the people that were watching earlier, you're Facebookers. So I think it's the same way on Facebook. Let me see. Because I was able to use certain parameters, but different sites. Yes. Okay. So on Facebook, let me share this tab instead. It's Freedom Speech and You also, and I will put it in chat so that you can read what it is. So on Facebook, I will be on this Facebook page. On YouTube, if you're in the app, you just put the app part of this in there. But if you're getting there from the browser via YouTube, then you come in with this link on YouTube. Okay. And I will also be on the Twitch platform. And on the Twitch platform, it's this link. And on the Twitch platform, it looks like this. And the music sounds like that when the show starts. But that's enough of that, because obviously, if you're not into politics, you don't want to watch that show. And if you're not into politics, you want to go back to the YouTube link that I showed you earlier, or just at SpaceX on YouTube. Okay. But again, now you know what time the launch is going to be. And I'm really happy that I was able to do this update for you. And I hope it helps you find tonight's information however you want to find it. And this is the kind of podcast that I'm going to be doing for Slightly Off Axis. I'm going to discuss things like this related to actual rocket launches from now on. I was doing a podcast that was about space history, and I was interviewing people, but I wasn't getting anybody that really wanted to do interviews. Now, maybe, who knows? Things could change, and I could get people saying, hey, you seem to know, how to talk to people really nicely, and I'd like to do an interview with you. Or I may have some of the approximately 8 people that I talked to before. And when I say 8 people, I'm counting the last group of people as a people, but there were actually 5 people in that group. So we're really talking, let's see, I talked to 7 people. One of them is deceased. So we're talking 10 people. I could have just said 10 people. Anyway, the podcast is going to be about the rocket launches, the ones that have succeeded, the ones that have failed, the things that go on, the schedule of the launches, the rescheduling of the launches, telling people what time the launches are so that they know wherever they're watching around the world how to watch the launches. Because it can be really confusing, because here in North America, in the United States, we still observe daylight savings time. And we do that, for the most part, in 4 time zones. But Hawaii doesn't, and Arizona doesn't. And, you got that going on. So the way the numbers shift is different when you live in a time zone that never changes versus the time zone that's going to daylight savings time. Because the daylight savings time people, they add an hour to the clock, and 3 o'clock becomes 4 o'clock. But for everybody else who's doing a subtraction, when we go forward an hour, instead of subtracting the amount of hours that they did, so going from Eastern to Hawaii, for instance, is 5 hours when you're in standard time, and it's 6 hours when you're not. So there you go. It complicates things. And not only that, people around the world don't even understand what the abbreviations mean. So that totally confuses people. And we have people who don't understand the difference between AM and PM, or why the dates are written differently. So there's that. I just like to make it easier for people to understand when to watch the launches. Oh, and I also wanted to talk tonight, while I have your eyes and ears. We did have the SpaceX try to launch this launch on Friday night. The other launch was successful. So the other launch did go. The Falcon 9 launch did go from SLC-48, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. And this launch got down to the last few seconds. Then they reset the clock. They evaluated for a second. It almost seemed like this launch, the Falcon Heavy, was going to go, like they were going to go beyond the launch window, perhaps. But I think they were just sitting in a state of hold so they can evaluate. And to my knowledge, they have not issued a statement for why Falcon Heavy did not go. So let me see, Falcon Heavy didn't launch Friday, April 28th, 2023. Why? So this is that. There's their thing. Let's see what they say over here on SpaceX or space.com. Do they have an explanation? And you can read along with me. Attempted to launch at the last minute with 59 seconds from lifting off at 8:26 on Friday when they called it abort. The rocket was about to enter its startup phase but did not ignite its 27 first-stage engines, 9 of each on its 3 core boosters. It's unclear what caused the abort. SpaceX just says we called the abort at 59 seconds. And that the purpose of the countdown is to catch any issues prior to flight. There are thousands of ways to launch a rocket, and there's only one way it can go right. So it does not appear that they actually issued a statement as to why it didn't go Friday. So it wasn't weather. They're just not telling you. So that was published yesterday. I haven't seen any statements from SpaceX, so I don't believe that we're going to get an answer about the why. Now, it's possible that the why had something to do with the payloads, and it's possible that the owners of the payloads didn't want to publicize that information, in which case SpaceX could not. So it could be that. That's the possibility. And that, folks, is the end of Slightly Off Axis podcast for tonight, April 30th, 2023. You've been watching the special edition to deal with the flight of Falcon Heavy, which we expect tonight from Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39A. Tune in to Freedom Speech and You. See, this is totally unrehearsed, and I can flub up at any time, and you can laugh on your side of the broadcast. Freedom Speech and You tonight, or watch the aforementioned SpaceX live feed without commentary in the chat. They don't have a chat on theirs. They keep theirs devoid of chat so anybody can watch it. So it's good for people of all ages. And it's good for people of all persuasions because you don't run into any politics. And if you've ever watched the NASA Facebook lives, you'll see why. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. SpaceX does not have an official Facebook site. They only have YouTube at SpaceX, and they only have Twitter at SpaceX. So if you see something on Facebook that says, quote unquote, that it's the official SpaceX anything, it's not. They may have an employee that actually comes on and does some kind of things, but SpaceX is strictly on YouTube and Twitter, to my knowledge. So stick to those sources or go to a source that has a feed. If you do want a feed with discussion and you want to stick to rocket and you want to learn a lot about rockets, I would suggest that you go with the YouTube feed for these people. There are multiple places, but I would suggest these people, and I'm going to tell you their name. They're NASA Spaceflight. They're not officially connected with NASA. In fact, they've recently changed their logo to make that more clear to people. But I would recommend NASA Spaceflight. I think you can find them on Facebook. That it'll redirect you here. But this is their coverage, and they're coming up at 7:30 tonight Eastern. So 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, 5:30 Mountain, 4:30 Pacific, 11:30 GMT, or 23:30 UTC. And for those people in Hawaii, 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. Check those guys out. They do have a couple of ladies that work with them as well, but they're predominantly guys. They do go deep into discussion. They are real rocket enthusiasts, and they will explain a lot of stuff. So, you check them out. I can't carry their broadcasts due to copyright reasons, but I highly recommend them. And, they can be very educating for the young people in your family. Okay. That's enough. That's enough for tonight. I'm going to close. I don't believe, I'm going to look and see, do I have close on here? I do. But the problem is that it was made for another show, so I would have to make another show. So I'm just gonna just play the countdown and say goodbye. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that tonight's show helps you enjoy the SpaceX Falcon Heavy launch, and I hope you enjoy future shows with me. Bye now.